people are going to wake up one day and be like, wait, UFOs are real and the connection is consciousness? They'll let us actually fly their craft if I connect with them? When I first heard that, I was like, get out of here. No, I've heard that from like 40 people, and I've seen the footage, and I know behind the scenes, like, that is real.
That can't be aircraft. There actually is a large unidentified object circling the Earth at incredible speed.
Naturally, we are very curious to know where it is you come from.
So anyone that is into the subject of UFOs, at some point, I promise you, you've watched something from the Gaia Network. Either whether you knew it or you saw it on one of your reels in social media, I promise you, you've seen something from the Gaia Network. And today we have somebody from the network that's an integral part of that network, and it's been there a long time. Our guest is Josh Golombeske, and Josh has worn a number of hats at the Gaia Network. But more importantly, he's got his own show called Cosmic Disclosure. Do yourself a favor. Go to the Gaia Network, check out Josh. He's talking to, face-to-face, everyone we hope to talk to. And there's been a lot of current events that he's been front and center for, so it's a little more than a guy sitting in the studio hosting a show. And that makes it so much more exciting as well. So without further ado, straight out of Compton, actually, Little Compton, Rhode Island, Josh Golombeske, welcome.
Hey, James, thanks for having me on, buddy. I'm excited to be here. Let's jump into this.
Let's jump into it. So a little bit of context background. I have met Josh virtually and through text through his brother, Ryan. And those two growing up were big fans of the paranormal, as I've heard from your brother ad nauseum. I got involved with his brother, who was a producer on Finding Bigfoot, was on Expedition Bigfoot, which is the biggest Bigfoot show out there. It got sick, didn't go past the first. As he said, he died on TV, and I know that was heartbreaking for him. But we got together and we made a number of films that are still out there floating around on Amazon. Everything from marching around the woods looking for Bigfoot to exploring a home of an abductee to the Conjuring House. So we had these adventures, Native American reservation in the Midwest with Bigfoot interactions and everything in between. So that was our history. But he told me a little bit of history about, he said something about when you were younger, to scare you, he kidnapped your guinea pig and took it in the closet with a candle burning just to kind of, to give, is that true?
Thanks for bringing up a childhood trauma there, James. Yeah, he would wake up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, climb through our closet that was connected. Our bedrooms are connected. And he would somehow put a candle and my guinea pig on the floor and then somehow make the doors slowly open at 3 a.m. I mean, I'm scarred for life. He's a wild man.
He is.
You know, as you know.
He is. It's well put. And he always described you as the more steady Eddie, like, you know, both have made careers in this, but you've just got the real steady trajectory and up to the top of Gaia. So congratulations on a great career too.
Oh, thank you. I know. I'm like basically full-time UFO now, which is a childhood dream, frankly.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's who we all want to be. But so how does someone get from Little Compton to an executive at Gaia?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I'm going to sum up a large part of my life. I was in LA as a post-producer and editor on unscripted and reality TV for like well over a decade. And my soul was slowly dying. I was super into UFOs, Bigfoot, paranormal my whole life, but wasn't really doing much in the field besides just being a fan and devouring all the content I could. And I worked on shows that were so terrible for like, I was actively dumbing down America. I was like working on Bad Girls Club, which is just like the worst show ever. It's basically the real world, but just women, and they put them in a house and they don't let them watch TV and they drink and they fight. It's just, it was so bad. I remember one day I came into work and I was editing like 2 women fighting and I was like, what am I doing with my life? This is wild. This is crazy. And I eventually just was looking and searching for something. And I saw Gaia and I was like, oh, Gaia, they're trying to pump out some cool material. You know, they got lower budgets, but it looks great. They're interviewing all the people I want to talk to. They're making cool content. So I just aggressively applied, aggressively hit up like all the executives there and the people who were hiring on LinkedIn until they noticed me. And it took about a year, but I finally got there, and I started in post-production. I was the director of post-production, so I managed the post team. And I helped us grow from basically like a company slinging internet videos into a full-blown production company with mix and color and graphics and multiple editors. And it was a really beautiful job. And then a few years into that, I transitioned to the front end to be the director of production, of front-end production, which is a whole different job. But and it was a really good growth moment for me. I went from dealing with editors who, like, if they get mad at you, they just hide in their bay and don't talk to you for a month. But then I went to dealing and managing the producers and handling talent, which is awesome because they're fiery, passionate people. And it's been a joy, honestly. It's been a challenge, but a joy to work with these people. And in that role is where, like, I just started, doing social media clips for Gaia. And they always thought, like, oh, Josh, you might be good on camera. And, my brother and I aren't scared. We've done things. We did Monster Brothers. Yep. Ryan had actually more TV experience until recently than I did. And one day an opportunity came up where a host couldn't make the show and we didn't want to lose the money and the guest that day. I jumped in, and then since then I've filmed about 20 shows as the host of Cosmic Disclosure, and it's been like a dream within a dream. Like, I'm talking to people that I would die to talk to. Like, recently I just interviewed Mike Batista, who came out on News Nation, and like, that guy is the real deal. And the reason why I like Gaia, and I'm not trying to be too promotional here, and Cosmic Disclosure, is on the mainstream, these guys, like, they don't say everything because it's the mainstream audience, and they're very nuts and bolts about it, which is great, and I'm glad they're doing it, no complaints. But when they come on Gaia, we can go deeper, and we'll get into like how it transformed their life, the paranormal aspects of it. We'll get weird real quick. We still cover the major event, but I'm all about, my thing in the UFO world is, yes, I love entities and sightings and nuts and bolts, but really the heart of it is the spiritual, physical, and emotional transformation people go through when they have contact. Even a simple UFO sighting can change someone's life forever. Never mind full-blown experiencers like Bledsoe and Batista and Mike Herrera. It's like, it's incredible, and I'm just like, want to promote it so bad. If people knew what was really happening, they'd be like, this world is like a science fiction adventure, and we're all just living in it, and most of us have horse blinders on. So anyways, that's the gist of how I went from small town boy living in the small town to the big city dream. And then I left LA, and now I'm in Boulder, which is a nice in between because the environment here is great. It's not so city. I don't like LA anymore. Wow.
Listen, man, and you're fired up about it. I could tell. I mean, even watching you on the show, it's like, man, everybody wants to be in that seat that's a fan or into the subject like we're into the subject. So kudos to you on that. And you touched on something as well. Like, today is Chris Bledsoe's birthday. Happy birthday, Chris.
Oh, cool.
I was texting him last night, and I talked to him some years back, and we're trying to get him on the show. He's a busy man, as you know, these days. But people like Chris and others that I've met and followed their journey, the human interest story is as big a part of the wow factor of what they went through. So I relate when you talk about that. You also get to know maybe the extension of that, some of their family members, and you realize that, hey, this guy just didn't see something one night. Like, their whole family is woven, this tapestry of effect has woven through their whole family, and it's changed their whole family dynamic, in some cases for decades. And so with some of the people I've met, I'm like, either they're all psychotic or something very dramatic happened, and it's been a life-altering event. As one lady told me, if you knew what happened to me, your reality would be shattered, and with tears in her eyes. And you're like, I don't think they're making this up. But thank you for the background, and let's get into it, man. You were recently the Buga Sphere is everywhere, and while we look at these clips and we wonder what is real and what's not real, and everybody talks about it, you were actually able to go down and handle this thing. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a wild story, James. It was, if there's anything in my life that was like a movie that you could almost make a movie about it was that weekend in Mexico City. You want me to get into it?
Yeah. What was it like? How was it to handle it? And just fill us in. We want to hear it.
Yeah. I'll give you the whole story, like how I even arrived there. So Jaime Maussan and Gaia have a special relationship because of the Nazca mummies that we investigated together like 7 years ago. There's a good relationship, and whatever's good for him is good for us. Like anything he's dealing that he thinks that we can be involved in or help with, he lets us in right away. So he came across this sphere. He invited Gaia down because he's really good friends with our CEO. And he was like, you guys should come down here, maybe get some content. I had just started filming Cosmic, and we're like, okay, cool. What do you got? The Buga Sphere. I thought it was hot. People were talking about it. I didn't know. I didn't think it was a hoax because I don't think Jaime would fly this thing from Colombia to Mexico City. So I'm like, I don't think it's a hoax, but maybe it's just misidentified. I wasn't that excited about it, honestly. But as the host of Cosmic, I was like, yeah, let's go down there. Dr. Greer is going to be there. All the Daniel Sheehan, all the names are going to, all the big names are going to be down there. Eric Burleson was down there, the congressman, which was wild. So I started to be like, okay, maybe there's something to this. We fly down, and it was just the wildest experience. So I walk into Jaime's facility, which is in like this mall, which that sounds kind of cheesy, but it's not. Like, it's amazing facility he has. And I walk into his office, which is amazing. And just like Dr. Greer's in there, these NASA scientists or these NASA contractors are in there. They stayed off camera. They didn't want anyone to know that they were there, but they were taking samples from it. I think that's where the carbon dating came from recently. Yeah. And I walk in this room, the congressman's there, all these engineers from the University of Mexico. I was like, wait, is this like the real deal? And it's just sitting there on this table. And my producer's like, I'm in my suit. I didn't know I was going to hold it. I just walked in. I had no idea what was going on. I was dealing a little bit with a belly issue. It was Mexico. I had a weird dinner the night before. I was a little out of it, honestly. It was like, and then he go, do you want to hold it? You want to grab it? And I was like, sure, I'll touch it. They're like, wait, put these gloves on. So I put these like lunch lady gloves on, basically. And I grab it and I'm holding it. And at first I'm just like, whatever, because I'm kind of honestly not feeling well. And then I started sweating and it started hitting me. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I holding a UAP? Is this a legitimate UAP? And at that point, it started hitting me like, what, there's multiple videos of it. We have multiple scientists. I already kind of knew some of the data, which I'll go over in a second, about why it's anomalous. And it kind of got heavy. It was only 20 pounds. It wasn't like I physically couldn't handle it, but I just remember like starting to feel kind of weird holding it. Like, wait a second, should they just let some dude from Little Compton, Rhode Island be holding this thing? Like, what is going on right now? But it was great. They let me hold it. And believe me, everyone asked me online, like, are you sure you should have held that? Like, what is it, radiation? And no, that was all tested. Like there was nothing wrong with it. It was totally safe to hold. At least, well, so far I'm totally healthy. So I hold this thing, I put it back down. And the weekend just goes from there. So they have a huge press conference, which was great. Burleson even said like a couple comments. I interviewed everybody that was involved when I was down there. I got a little room Jaime gave us, and I interviewed the guy who held the sphere, the guy who founded it originally, Jose, who is just a beautiful man that like explained how it burned his fingerprints off for a couple days. He got sick when he first got it. He didn't know what it was. He got scared, and it was actually really light when he first got it. It was only like 2 kilograms, which I don't know what that means in pounds. But then it was really fascinating because he got scared, called his cousin, who was like I forget his exact title. He was a scientist, works with metal. And his cousin took it from him, and then they kept it in quarantine for 2 months. And in those 2 months, it went from 2 kilos to this might be wrong, 20 kilos, but it like quadrupled in weight, basically, which is bizarre. And the scientists tried to explain it like a magnetic field, something about its engine or whatever that means was like slowly dying. So it changed weight. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. It's all in the documentary and it's all out there online. You guys can find it to get the actual specific scientific details. Okay. I'm just going to walk you through the story. So I interview those guys. I interview the scientists. They start saying crazy things to me. Some of the stuff you might know is it's filled with fiber optics, but not in a way that we use. It's really bizarre and intricate, and it's mostly designed for space communication, I was heard, which is compelling. Now, if you're into ufologies for 10 minutes, you know Philip Corso, and you know one of the things that supposedly was reverse engineered is fiber optics. Now, I know real scientists out there are going to be like, there's a real history of fiber optics, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I'm just saying what Philip Corso said. It's unusual. The Buga Sphere also was filled with this stuff. So that was really weird. There's also something with the hardness, which I can't explain. Yeah. The way the aluminum and all the compounds and elements in it, it's bizarre. It's emitting a frequency of some sort that's for space travel through the fiber optics or something like that. And that was all I think I learned down there about it. It was afterwards. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, then I'll jump back. Recently, information came out. They were able to carbon date resin, which is an organic compound in one of the little holes when they were like, whoever had it was drilling around it and left some sort of carbon in it. They were able to date that to 12,560 years old, which doesn't prove anything yet because you need to get the dating on the isotopes of the metal to really date this thing, but it's highly compelling because that does suggest something that it's really old and it's real. It's not a hoax, folks. Like it might end up being, I don't know, like some sort of modern thing that's a fake or something, but it's definitely not a hoax. So 12,560 60 years old. That's what we know right now, and we're waiting on more information. But it's also, and this is coming from Dr. Greer, I interviewed him recently, that the etchings on it, which throw everyone off, and I get it. When you look at it, you're like, is this an art project? Does some kid in high school do this? That's what I thought too. When people are making fun of me online, I'm like, dude, I thought the same thing, but I went down there and I started interviewing him. But apparently, and Dr. Greer goes deep into this in the interview I did with him, where it's Proto-Sanskrit, he's calling it, which basically means it's like pre-Sanskrit. It's like an origin language, an unknown origin language where all our languages came from, or something like that. And he also thinks that language is interstellar for some reason. So that's just incredible. So more information is coming about it. Dr. Greer already said it's non-human, or it's coming from an advanced ancient civilization that had high technology, either that was non-human or their own. And what's interesting about that carbon dating, James, is that if you're familiar with Graham Hancock or Randall Carson's work, that's roughly the time of the great, supposed deluge, where the ice caps melted and wiped out the planet. I don't know what that means when it comes to the Buga Sphere, but that is an interesting parallel. Okay, let me back up. I know I'm ranting and going on tangents. That's what I do. But I'm back in Mexico City. We're back in Mexico City. So we held the Sphere. We had the press conference. It's amazing. It was so crazy. Everyone was there. Daniel Sheehan and all these guys. We go to dinner that night, which was the wildest dinner of my life. Like, Daniel Sheehan knows things that, like, he doesn't say on camera. Everything from the Kennedy assassination to how ETs he explained how ETs traveled to me, and I was like, holy cow, they're somehow like able to use the quantum field, and in that moment where matter disappears in and out of reality, they use technology to harness that, and that's what allows them to teleport everywhere in the universe. He explained it though with like scientific terms, and I was just blown away. It was the craziest dinner ever. It was Greer and Burleson and Daniel Sheehan. I was like, what am I doing here? I'm just a dude from Rhode Island. This is wild, and I just started hosting, so I didn't feel like I didn't have that much confidence yet. But anyways, that dinner was wild. So the next night, we go to Jaime's place all day long, and Jaime's place is in the mountains overlooking the city. It's a sanctuary for like monkeys and dogs, and it's like it's the Shire. It's literally the Shire. Houses popping out of the ground all over the place. He's making this amazing food. It was this bougie like UFO experience that I'll never forget, dude. And everyone was there too. Anyways, there was Nazca mummies everywhere on the property. It was like, you walk into a room, there'd be a Nazca mummy. You walk in another room, Greer's doing a documentary. He was shooting a documentary down there. It was just a crazy experience. But so I just bring it up because it's a fun part of it. Nothing too anomalous happened there. But we go home that night. We go back to his studio. We just go in to grab media because Jaime helped us shoot all the interviews. And we walk out with it. We go back to the hotel, which is like across the street from the studio, and we're at dinner. And we're sitting there, and suddenly I was with Mike Mazzola, who's the director of a lot of Greer's documentaries. And Greer marches over the table, and Jaime calls at the same time. And apparently 2 guys in security outfits showed up at his facility and tried to take the Buga Sphere. They were like, we're here to transport it. You can give it to us now. And the security was like, no, you're not. We have no idea who you are. And there was a bit of a standoff. Now, this is actually caught on security camera. You see these 2 guys come up. It's a whole thing. Jaime was obviously very upset about this. Is this classic moment where the legacy program paratroopers are coming in to take the device? At that moment, you're like, what else could it be? Like, this is wild. This is really happening. Now, that story is fun, but ultimately, and I even talked to Daniel Sheehan about it, was that probably not. Like, I have a feeling they would have shut down the lights, came in and taken it no matter what they wanted to do. It seemed like it might have been just 2 cartel guys or 2 criminals just trying to grab it quick because there was a press conference the day before. Now, I don't know. It could have been the legacy program people, but I have a feeling if they really wanted it, they could have grabbed it pretty quickly. So that's kind of the gist of this whole story. We still need more information on the Buga Sphere. I trust Dr. Greer in a lot of ways. Like, the guy, I know he pisses a lot of people off, but he also is authentic and he knows what he's talking about. And if he's saying the Buga Sphere is most likely non-human or from an ancient civilization, I'm going to jump onto that theory until proven otherwise, man. There is multiple videos of it flying, like 4K. And the craziest thing is there's footage of the same sphere about 40 miles away by someone else who shot it after the fact. So I'm sure you know this, James. These things are seen all around the world. There's all sorts of footage of it. We literally have 4K footage of this thing flying around. Like, when people say there's no good UFO footage, they're just parroting what they heard someone else say. Like, there is good UFO footage. And the reason why it's blurry, not to go on a tangent, is because of the way they travel and the propulsion systems. They get a little blurry. But this shot, the 4K one, not the Buga Sphere, the one they filmed afterwards by William something, I can't pronounce his last name, who I interviewed as well, is like 4K. This guy keeps sending us stuff. He's like in a hotspot. So that's kind of like the gist of the Buga Sphere story. It's so fascinating. It's not BS. It's amazing how many people came out and were like, it's fake, it's fake. Even I respect Patrick Jackson a lot, but he even said it was fake.
Yeah.
And, I think if he was involved and talked to the engineers and really got into it, he might have a different opinion. But I love Patrick's work. That's not talking crap about Patrick. He's great. And he might be right. Again, like I don't really know. I'm trusting the engineers and the scientists. But every day we get closer and closer to it potentially being NHI.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, man. And I know you've got some contacts that we don't. So please keep me posted on that. And I know you will. But it's a fascinating tale. I could only imagine we're here watching it online, and you're there at Jaime Maussan's house bumping into. You think it's a bathroom, and it's a mummy, and it's like that is wild. And then another thing you were involved with that we would all like to be spectators of in a front row that you was the congressional hearings recently.
Yeah, actually, as a caveat to that. So that turned out, God, man, like I wish. Okay, so we had 3 press passes, and then at the week leading up to it, we got 2 pulled. So there was only 1, and then that got pulled, and we were like, "What is happening? Is this like anti-Gaia stuff?" No, it wasn't. It's just the bigger agencies or bigger networks just got presidents. But the good news is we got 1 pass. I was not able to go, which was devastating because I even publicly put it out there. I'm going. Oh yeah, I was so fired up. But it all worked out beautifully, actually. This is why. So our producer went, who's really good friends with Daniel Sheehan, and he got to know Burleson really well and hung out with him. So we made this amazing connection. And because of that, we got access to Nusatelli and all the UAP hearing people, and we're talking to them to get them on Gaia potentially. Not we're actually just going to schedule it. They already said yes. So by Sid going, my producer, we were able to get access to these guys, which is amazing. And it just ended up being a great trip for Gaia because it allowed us. We're really trying to get like the cutting edge whistleblowers, and we're starting to get them with Mike Herrera, Mike Batista. I just filmed. I have Rear Admiral Timothy Gallaudet coming in November. That's confirmed. And this Sid going to the hearing and really being there with Burleson and Luna and making friends with them, and they're supporting us and they want to help us. You know, they're even willing to come on Gaia, which is interesting. But we might not interview Congress people just because we try to be nonpartisan. We don't want to even putting someone on camera, Republican or Democrat, even if they're not talking about politics, immediately divides the audience, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
Which is, I hate that. I don't care if you're into UFOs. I'm into you. I don't care what side of the party you're on. Like you're awesome. I support you, Luna. I support you, Burleson. I support the Democrats and the Republicans who are all into UFOs. Anyways, so that was a bummer that I didn't get to go, but I got some interesting information. So Sid was with Chris Bledsoe that night, and a few ladies who work in the White House, not administration, not politics, but they manage the science budgets. That's all I can say. And this information came out with Ross Coulthart too on News Nation. They did a CE5 that night at the Capitol and got footage of an orb, just like Chris Bledsoe gets all the time. All these people got together and called in an orb, and it happened that night of the UAP hearing, which is just so fascinating and just incredible. And that seems to be real. I saw the footage. I know the people. I know who was there. And I mean, I wish I was there. So anyways, long story short, I wish I got to go, and that was a bummer, but it all worked out beautifully, and we're getting access to the new whistleblowers, and that's just what Sid and I want and Gaia wants. We just want to help. I'm an advocate for supporting UFOs and whistleblowers and getting this information out in the world. I don't care. I am shameless. The stigma does not bother me. I'm at the point now where people bully people into UFOs. I'm reverse Uno carding this. I'm gonna start bullying people who don't believe in it or ridicule, because it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. And I think we're really seeing that threshold, James, because online I'm finding you still get negative comments, but overall the love, the retweets, the comments, so many direct messages I'm getting, I can't even keep up. So many people are sharing stories, and I think we just, guys like you and I and women in our space, just got to keep talking, because we're changing the stigma, and there's so many people out there who want to support us, and they'll start to be more and more vocal as we go forward.
No, I agree. That's kind of our mission here too, is to bring all angles, and it's the one thing that can, I think, truly unite people. I mean, even when you watch the congressional hearings, it becomes bipartisan because they all look like kids that are learning something really fascinating for the first time. And their whole posture changed, the whole dynamic changes, and it's just like this awe and wonder of they know something's going on, and talking to some people that have been in skiffs or talked to people and Congress people in skiffs, and there's still only so much that can be told public facing.
Right.
They're just trying to allude to the fact that I promise you, there's non-human intelligence and recovered craft. It seems, and biologics. Anyone you talk to that's been in that situation, even the Congress people, I believe that. Now it's this wrestling match of how do we actually get this? Nick Pope and I were talking about it. It's like if there's a legacy program, and then you've got these other programs, ATIP, OSAP, and these whistleblowers from those programs, they bumped into the legacy program knowing, my God, the trail ends here and I can't get through the door. So the only way, personally, I have to make a decision. If we're going to get disclosure truly, then there's got to be some kind of congressional oversight, and really the public really needs to know from that angle. And let's combine that. And now we have it. So let me ask you this. You talk to people. I know I've talked to Rick Doty. I know you've talked to Rick quite a bit, the Stephen Greers of the world. And your producer in Gaia, like you said, was at the congressional hearings. Taking a step back from that, now maybe like a month's gone by, where do you think we really are with disclosure? How do you feel about it?
I think the genie's out of the bottle. As someone who has studied the history of this very intensively, and knowing that we've had moments like with Project Blue Book in the 50s and the Robinson, there's all these moments where like it became public and people started to believe it. This is different. And I don't care what anyone says. I think we are clearly heading towards some sort of revelation coming directly from the government. I would argue we're already in disclosure. We have language of non-human intelligence and unidentified anomalous phenomenon in the National Defense Authorization Act. We already have it in there. Like, so that's disclosure to me. Like, Congress is telling the public there's something going on. Now, that act is not strong enough for them to go after the corporations like Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, or however we say it, to go after the. We even know who has it. That's what's crazy. It's like they know, and they've been named over and over again. It's in the National Defense Authorization Act. We have all these whistleblowers coming forward in droves. Like, it's amazing, like how many people behind the scenes are about to come out. Even the last 48 hours, some guy came out on News Nation. Thank God for Ross Coulthart. I love Ross Coulthart. That guy's the best. And like, we're basically getting his seconds at this point, but we don't care because we'll go deeper. Again, like earlier I was saying, like, we'll talk about the consciousness part. So, and even Greer said it to me. I asked him straight up. I was like, well, Dr. Greer, like, what do you think's going to happen? He's, oh, we're like a year or two away. And I know he's made predictions before, but like, there's just too many variables. The genie is out of the bottle. The toothpaste is out. You can't put the toothpaste back in. It's too much. But the question, James, and I'm sure you have something to say about this, is like, what type of disclosure are we going to get?
Right.
Because there's clearly this like threat-based narrative being shoved on us. I'm definitely a Greer supporter, a Dr. Greer supporter, when it comes to that. I don't think ETs are negative. I know this is the abduction phenomenon, but anytime you talk to a lot of these people who've had contact experiences, it goes from like being scared to not. It's like a shamanic initiation, like Dr. John Mack talked about at Harvard, how these people go through this initiation and they come out a more spiritual person. So I just don't buy the threat-based ETs are bad scenario. Now, I'm not saying bad ETs have done bad things to people, and being abducted and taken on a ship and having a medical exam, that's horrible. I'm not trying to say, and I think that's real, but it's part of like a larger thing. And usually once people get through that and they unlock more memories, they're like, wait, is this my family? Did I agree to this? Why am I transforming? I'm more spiritual. They healed me. That's the one thing that's not talked about. Everyone loves to talk about getting butt probed, but no one will bring up that the healings are actually very common. And Preston Dennett does a lot of good work on that, has a lot of good books on it. So I'm like, I think it's coming. Disclosure's coming. It's out of the box. Like I just talked to Batista. It's like so crazy. People are going to wake up one day and be like, wait, UFOs are real and the connection is consciousness, and they'll let us actually fly their craft if I connect with them. When I first heard that, I was like, get out of here. And now I'm like, no, I've heard that from like 40 people, and I've seen the footage, and I know behind the scenes, like that is real. So long story short, yes, I think we're heading towards it. It's sooner than later. We just got to choose what it is. Are we going to believe that 3i Atlas is an alien mothership coming here to destroy the planet? Or are we going to believe that that is just a false narrative for them to spend money on weaponizing space? I mean, I use that as an example because it's a hot topic right now. But that's, to me, it's not about disclosure. It's about threat or love. And I think it's going to be up to the public to distinguish between the two.
No, I'm right there with you. In fact, when the 3i Atlas thing started to make the rounds, I thought timing-wise, again, you've talked to Greer, and he said it's a false flag. It'll be a fake alien invasion, basically, right?
Yep.
And then talked to Bledsoe, and he's like, it'll be a change in our consciousness will happen. And it won't be like the false flag, but a change in consciousness. So you just said it, either a threat or love, right? Is basically the both ends of the spectrum. And then the dates on it all started to they're all within, 2026, 2027 seems to be the year that I'm hearing most. And I think Chris even said Easter. So, my kids, I walk around the house talking about all this stuff, and they're like, "So are we going to have Easter that year, or what are we doing? What are we doing?" I'm like, "Well, let's monitor it. We'll have to watch that one closely." But it is fascinating, all the different narratives, and I talk about it on the show a lot. I spent a day with Kathleen Marden at her home last year, and. When I look at John Mack and Bud Hopkins, and I read their books and I watched their at a speeches that they gave together, and they would outwardly say Bud Hopkins was more on the I don't think this is all friendly side, and John Mack would say I understand that, but there's a progression I've seen where the fear and the terror turns into almost a spiritual loving relationship over time. And Bud tend to buck that. But so those are two examples going back decades that we're still hearing it today, from even experiencers. So I don't know, man. I guess that's why we keep doing this, right? Let's, we talk to whistleblowers that describe lifelong events that happened before they were in the military that I feel that a lot of these people you're chosen somehow, or there's some kind of history that will follow you through your life with experiences like that. And if you happen to get into, or maybe you're kind of pushed towards getting into a program that is a government program studying UFOs, maybe there's a reason. I don't know. There's so many variables. But I want to switch gears a little bit with Cosmic Disclosure. You've had how many episodes now?
I think 13 have aired, and I got 9 more in the can, and I'm going to shoot probably 4 to 5 more this year. So
it's a lot.
Over 20, but only 13 are available right now. Yeah.
Who do you find? Who's the person that blew your mind the most? I know that it's all different angles, but what guest really, or guest that really said something that just blew your mind?
Yeah. Wow, man. That's like, they all did. And I'll put it in not an order, but like there's ones that I'm like, this is information is 100% legitimate. And there's other stuff where it's like, it's remote viewing. So how can you can't prove it. I'm not saying they're wrong at all. It's just fascinating. I mean, the most shocking thing said were by this remote viewer named Sebastian Martin, who talked about 3i Atlas being a reptilian mothership filled with soldiers. Not that it's going to attack us, but they're coming through. And it's a whole story. And he has agency contacts. Now, I love Sebastian. He's a good guy, but I don't think anyone can get behind that without real evidence, So that's a fun story. It's shocking. But the stuff that actually resonates with me the most was the stories of Mike Herrera and Mike Batista. Both of them are military. Mike was a Marine. Herrera was a Marine. Batista was a Green Beret. Both of them had experiences of seeing UFOs and connecting with them, even doing CE5 type stuff before they even knew Greer. Now, both of them are great. Since I just talked about Batista, I'll talk about him more because I just interviewed him and I love Mike Herrera. But his story is so profound. Like, he was telling me he gets contracted by these agencies where they're going out and making contact with UFOs in a groups of psionics who are reaching out in their minds to attract these UFOs to come down and to try to make contact or try to pilot the craft. I asked him, I was like, what does that mean? Like, so they're just giving you the joystick, like that's like letting your kid drive your Ferrari. Like, what are you doing? Like, and apparently that's what it is. They're literally like, hey, human, you connected to me. This is great. We want to fly for a second. Now that gets into deeper stuff where you realize a lot of experiencers and people with regular contact have memories of piloting crafts, which is really fascinating. This is a little different though. They're coming down. Oh, yeah, I see you, human, and you connect. That is like the most fascinating thing, and I've heard it over and over again. The work of Skywatcher and Jacob Barber. I would highly recommend people watching their YouTube channel, watching the News Nation interview. People are connecting, and it's a profound experience. They describe it as like you get overwhelmed with this energy. It gets emotional. You're crying. It changes you for life. Like, they literally change after that. Even Jacob Barber talks about it. He cried. That's like a special forces guy crying on camera about connected to an egg-shaped UFO. It's crazy. But Mike's story, Mike Batista, like, holy cow, he's the real deal. He's another Chris Bledsoe, by the way. He only lives an hour away from Chris, by the way, and we want to get them together to do some type of special show with him because Mike has regular contact. And what he told me was it was going on for a year, right? At one point, almost every night he would see something, and he got frustrated one night. He was like, "Just show yourself. What are you doing? Like, why are you even here? Like, what do you?" He got mad, kind of, and then that's when he had his first major experience, or one of his major experiences, the one on News Nation, where the craft came down only 50 feet away, multiple entities. He went deeper with me too on it. He was like, dude, it made me docile. And I just kind of was like, oh, this is really interesting. And like, he didn't really like overreact. About 10 minutes into it, after seeing all this, the craziest stuff you could possibly see, he goes back to his shed and just decides to go to bed. And he goes, right before he was going to bed, he saw one of the ETs in the window, like a classic gray. He saw grays, mantis, and something else that looked like an ancient petroglyph, which gets into like, are they actually what they look like? Are they projecting something for you to see? And then he wakes up in his house in the morning and he's like, wait, this is a different location, and had all these strange dreams of flying around the world to different ancient sites and accessing these doors with giant UFOs. And I was like, oh my God. Now that sentence, to somebody who hasn't been exposed to this, James, might go, you're crazy, Josh. Stop talking. Mike Batista's batshit. But no, like that's consistent. Like even what he told me in his dream is something these experiences say over and over and over again. It is so much more beautiful and bizarre than entities from a planet in our known universe. Like it is extraterrestrial from planets from different times. It is interdimensional. And this is where the confusion is for people. And this is I'm getting a little off topic, but one of the things that people I think need to know, and I don't know this 100%, but I've heard this over and over again. There's actually kind of three major phenomenons happening. One is just classified UFOs and reverse engineered stuff we're seeing. That's actually most of what people are seeing. Then the two other things are extraterrestrials from a known planet somewhere in our galaxy. Doesn't mean they're from our time though, which is confusing for people because their ships travel in time. And the other, and you may know this, I'm not like preaching to you, James. I just like to advocate for this, let the audience know because people are confused. And the other one is interdimensional. Now, this one, it seems to be more tied to the orbs and the light beings, though there is confusion because sometimes the ETs look exactly the same. So there is weirdness there. But the interdimensional stuff is the stuff connected more to spirituality, religion, human development. And it's like seeing like the Lady of Fatima incident is like a classic UFO incident. That could be interdimensional. It's beautiful. It doesn't discount religion in any way. In any sense, it just could strengthen it. Like we don't fully understand what it is. And it could be inspiring people, and it seems to be changing human behavior. And that interdimensional part just like really fascinates me because one quick experiencer, if you're familiar with, I just like to talk about quick, is Dorothy Izzat. Dorothy Izzat was famous. She was studied by Hynek. She has 10,000 feet of footage of interdimensional lights in the sky. And her story is fascinating because at one point, she communicated with them and they were like, you want to see a UFO? And she's like, yeah, that's something different. She goes, yeah, they're just kind of close to us so they can talk to us, but like here. And they both show up in the sky at the same time. So the ETs have a connection to the interdimensionals because they're kind of closer in their tech or their like conscious development. Anyways, last thing I'll say about Dorothy is that I'm way off topic from like what was my most interesting thing on Cosmic, but she, when she saw the topic through positivity, it was all great. She went, then all of a sudden her friends started saying, watch out, it could be demons, it could be negative. And all of a sudden the phenomenon started manifesting negatively. That's just an interesting caveat I love to tell people. But rounding back to Cosmic. So Mike Batista, Mike Herrera fascinated me. Rick Doty is breaking information that no one else knows. He is talking about a program, a craft called the Kronos craft on Cosmic, which is reverse engineered with the help of J-Rod, a Palladian ET they had in captivity. Now, the reason why I believe this story is because I know I can't say it here, where Rick is actually getting it from. And I know Rick is super controversial, but I know where he's getting it from and I know who he works for. And this information has been given to Congress behind closed doors in a skiff. But there is a real, and it makes sense because it's a time traveling craft. Once you get into this, you realize it's all time travel. These things blink in and out. Time is just another dimension. And the whole way he explains it is just, it feels real. It's these astronauts taking these craft that have been slowly worked on since the 70s, and it blows my mind. They all blow my mind, James. Like they're all amazing. It's just different levels. It's like the Sebastian, more fantastical, hard to prove, but really compelling. The Doty, real information, but it's controversial. And then the experiencer military guys, I think is where I get lit up the most because something about that is cutting edge with Skywatcher, the mics, and I'm just really excited because, dude, we're going to talk to Nusatelli and these other guys, and Nusatelli already told us off camera that, like, he didn't even witness the event that he talked about in front of Congress. He interviewed all these people
who saw this giant craft. But Nusatelli started having paranormal fallout. He started getting weird phenomenon happening to him after that event, which is a thing people got to realize. Yeah. Once ETs show up, weird stuff goes down. It seems paranormal. What is it? It's like the Las Vegas alien landing. Like, what happened to that family? Why was a cross and a Bible floating around their house? Like, why is it so bizarre? Is it the ETs themselves, or they open up some sort of membrane where other things come through after the fact? And that's like the cutting edge stuff that I am so fascinated with. When I say paranormal fallout, it's the word today people use is the hitchhiker effect. It's the same word. I just like paranormal fallout. It's just an older version of it, and I think it sounds cooler, so I just use it. But it's like saucer nest. Instead of a landing site or crop circles, saucer nest. Anyways, okay. I think I answered your question. I went on 4 tangents, but I'm back for you, James.
No,
what do we got?
I love it. I love it. And you brought up so many, Dorothy. I watched, if nobody's seen that documentary, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's
something about the light.
Something about the light in it. Yeah. But this sweet lady taking all these just thousands of hours of footage of these lights. I saw a follow-up documentary where somebody goes to her house, and now her kids everybody's grown, and they're taking the kids aside, and the adult son was like, I always thought it was just bullshit until, he got to witness things firsthand. And as they're doing it, this is a documentary's camera. They show through the kitchen window, and you see like a craft right outside the kitchen window, and then they stop, and they're like, they didn't even catch it real time. And you go back, and it's like, that's a trip, man. That's a trip. But her stuff is amazing. If you haven't seen that, check that one out. I love everything you said about, with Bledsoe. When I was talking to him, he said he had Crohn's disease so bad, right, that he had a near-death experience. And he got through that near-death experience not long after that he had the river experience, right, that first night. Crohn's was gone forever, completely healed from Crohn's. He's like, I was going 15, 16 times a day. I was losing everything. They healed him, right? But when some nefarious people started getting involved with him, he had mentioned things got a little dark in his house. And it was the same thing that Dorothy described, almost shadow people, a sense of like, I don't know if these are like, where's the good guys? Like, this doesn't feel like the good guys. But that paralleled exactly with Dorothy. And I remember her talking about that when some energy was introduced into her life that was dark, things got a little bit dark with the phenomena. And again, what is that? Like, if we knew the answer, we wouldn't even, why are we talking? But it just, these parallels and these correlations are so interesting. And it's almost like ones you can't really make up. That's what is fascinating to me.
No, totally.
So good stuff, man. And also, last part of this, I want to know, you're a UFO nut. I'm a UFO nut. Throw out a case. What's an archival case that flips your switch, that just hits different, that you're like, I love this case? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, well, I can answer that question 12 ways. Let's find the most interesting one. The Phoenix Lights is my favorite case of all time, even though it didn't really necessarily have direct contact, though later on you start to realize that people's lives were transformed, and there was hitchhiker effect even with that. And George Knapp covered it on his show on Netflix. So this is a good question, because I have a bunch of answers, but I'm going to give you this one because it's just no one's heard it before. I am a MUFON field investigator as well. And I have a case recently that wasn't a UFO case, but related. And it just is so awesome because it parallels so many weird things that are happening. So it's a woman in the Colorado mountains on the edge of the San Luis Valley, which is a known UFO hotspot, which all sorts of bizarre things happen, from UFO sightings, Bigfoot, cryptids, and little dinosaurs have been reported. Like, this is the ground zero for Dogman. Like, a lot of the werewolf Dogman stuff came out of Colorado to begin with, and it's just a crazy place. Now, her story, when I first heard it, it's hard for me to prove it, but I'm actually going to do a whole video on it because it was too awesome. She was in her yard, winterizing her driveway. She was walking up and down the driveway. She heard a crazy screech. Now, you know what? I'm going to back up. Before I get into the story, she already had one case in MUFON that was determined as a true unknown, where she had security footage of a UFO on her property. And it was investigated heavily, and it was designated, the disposition was unknown, which is like the highest classification. MUFON's not about proving cases. It's about like having a database to pull from to see themes. But that case was determined as an unknown. Now, she followed up with this case involved a cryptid. This is what she described. She was on her driveway, and she heard a screech that sounded prehistoric. And she saw this creature that was about her height, had claws for feet, like dinosaur feet. It was a mix between a wolf and an ostrich. It had feathers. It seemed like it had wings. It was giant, and it was just rustling in the bushes. And she was like, what is that? She kind of panicked. It couldn't see its face clearly because it was in the bushes, and it bolted off. And then she heard like 8 of them, like all around her property and in the area screeching, like it was like a pack of velociraptors or some shit. And she was like, I can't. So she panics and she runs back inside. The same creature they've seen multiple times on her property. I don't think this lady's lying, because what she described is almost like the Dino Beaver experience at Skinwalker Ranch, if you're familiar, where they described a prehistoric. The only reason why I even entertained her was because I was like, whoa, I know that's a thing. And she just was a sweeter older lady, and because she had a previous case, I was like, I'll entertain you. Now, in the end of it, I can't prove anything. I called all these like animal sanctuaries in the mountains. I was like, you got ostriches up there? Well, like, what's going on? And they were like, no, we don't have anything. Who the hell are you? Get out of here. This is crazy. I went deep on like the folklore, and the only thing I could come up with was there's a mythical monster in Colorado called the demon flyer, and some of the descriptions she gave matched it. And I just wonder if the demon flyer is like some sort of hotspot creature that someone saw a long time ago and created a legend about it. Because I don't care what anyone says, the reports of prehistoric animals in hotspots is seen over and over again. It sounds crazy. I don't have proof. I wouldn't bet on it. But cases like that, oh, they fascinate me. I love when it's a cryptid, paranormal / UFO and trying to figure out that connection. It is so good. So that's like my favorite case happening now. If you want like a big historical one, I mean, the Phoenix Lights, Chris Bledsoe I'm obsessed with, Dorsey Izet, we kind of covered like the big ones. Betty Andressian is another great story that her story like blows your mind. You're like, holy cow. Like she made the connection for me of the afterlife and UFOs, how like there's some sort of weird connection there where people see the dead on a UFO or leading up to an event, and be shown even a doorway to the other side where they can remember the whole event, but they won't remember what happened past the doorway. Like that stuff is like deep esoteric, sci-fi, like religious stuff that like, I don't normally rant about that because that just turns people off right away. But we're going to get there one day, James. One day we'll be able to talk about all this, not just nuts and bolts. It's a craft in the sky. It's in the right, like all that stuff's great, but like, nah, man, the experiencers have the information that the public's waiting for. But like the government might never say the weird things. They might just say it's real. They're not going to be like, it's tied to our genetics. It's tied to spirituality potentially. I'm not saying it is. I don't know. I don't want to offend people. I think this is only going to strengthen people's spirituality and religion. So I just want to be clear about that.
I agree. It has for me. At one, there's a case that you probably have heard of, but for me, I don't know why. I did something about it that's so vintage, and I just love it. Was in June of 1959, Australian priest, and it's Papua New Guinea, is at that point, I think, under the jurisdiction of Australia. So he goes to set up a mission. And so Father Gill is doing missionary work in 1959. And one evening in June, the villagers and the people that are part of his little congregation, these are islanders, run and they're pointing. He goes out, there's a craft 200 feet up, and there's video of Father Gill in like the 60s being filmed talking about this. And he's like, imagine we go out there, this craft is up there and it's twinkling all the way around it. And there's people on top of the craft. And I said, go get me a torch. That's what they call the flashlight. Go get me the torch and a pencil and paper. So he draws it and he's like, wouldn't it be something if we waved and they waved back? And he said, so we waved and they waved back. And then he said, the young man took the torch and was bobbing it back and forth, and the craft started to mimic it, right?
Wow.
And so the next night, craft's back. They go out, same thing. They're watching it. There's 4 people or beings on top of this, and they watch it for quite a while, and he has to do a service. And so they're like, what do we do? He's like, we got to go do service. So they go back into the church. They do the full service. They come back out and they sit there and watch it for another hour or more.
Wow.
And he said when it took off, it had no noise, and it took off in the way, not so much of the blinking out, but took off where you could just see the blur, and then it's gone. And so he reports this to the Australian Air Force. He reports it all the way up the food chain of the diocese. And in 1959, if you're a priest, that's not something you want to do in order to enhance your future. And then they roll out pages and pages of the 38 people each drawing what they saw. And these were islanders too. There wasn't like someone like, I'm going to get famous for reporting a UFO.
Right.
So it was an amazing case, and it affected him because he's a father. He's like, now I'm trying to reconcile, if this is not us, then who? And how does that change my relationship with what I believe to be out there? So for me, that for whatever reason, I always go back to that case, the Father Gill case.
I love a good historical UFO case. I could read that stuff all day. Did they? What did the beings look like? Did you remember what he drew?
It was just more like an outline of standard humanoid shape. It wasn't like enough detail to see because of the light around the craft. You couldn't see their features, but it was just dark,
humanoid,
just
bipedal,
dark.
maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And at first he thought maybe it was something that was being tested, but he said it would rock and just hover and no noise and stayed stationary for almost a couple hours in the second night. So that's a wild
amazing
case for me. Yeah.
Well, I want to it reminds me of something I just want to say quick that goes with kind of with my theme I've been kind of promoting here is that even Kenneth Arnold's sighting back in the 40s, what most people don't realize is that after that, he had paranormal fallout. His family reported orbs, dreams, and a whole host of paranormal stuff after the fact. So the question I would ask the good father and his congregation is, what happened after that?
Right.
Because that's where it gets real interesting.
That is. And that seems to be even, and you touched on it earlier, people that even investigate this at a deep level at times start talking about orbs showing up in their house. And I'll cut my part off with this. When we did, and I've mentioned this on the show before, when we went to that Conjuring house up there in Rhode Island, I met your mom, by the way. We stayed at her house the day before we went to the Conjuring house for days. We stayed there like 5 days and 4 nights. Massive experiment we set up. We had a light just flash above us in the library midday. And I was covered in static. And that's the second or third time I've been in a location where just covered in static at an abductee's house and on the Native American reservation. But after we got back, things started to happen, and they weren't good. Like I lost a second brother. My business fell apart. The first day we landed, I'm telling the story to my in-laws at their house. And once I start bringing up the Conjuring story, I get 102 temperature. And I'm writhing in pain for like 12 hours straight at night in my nephew's bed. And then the fever just goes away the next morning. And you look, this could all be a coincidence, but it was just to where I told your brother and the other gentleman, Stacy, I was involved with, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. I'm not going to go to these places and do these things.
Well, that's negative paranormal fallout.
Right.
Like that, you went to like the devil's den,
Right. Pick a different spot. But so
Right.
I've really just focused in, like you, on the UFO phenomenon. That's where, since a kid, I was there during the Phoenix Lights. All I had to do was go down to 7-Eleven and get an icy, but I was watching University of Arizona basketball on TV. Didn't see it, so that is a bummer. But also, before we wrap, you have, of course, I want people, go watch Cosmic Disclosure. He's got a heavy hitter lineup of people in studio. It's awesome. But you've also got a documentary that I saw on, I believe it's on Amazon, if it's still up there, about,
Yep.
I'll let you take it away.
Well, thanks for watching. First of all, that was a passion project I did outside of work, which was a labor of love that took me a year. It's really hard to put together a documentary while you have a full-time job. And I loved it because it's all about an experiencer and it's about transformation. I found this guy who I love. He's this Puerto Rican hip-hop artist named Skits, the PLK. And he was claiming that he changed his music style from gangster rap, hurtful gangster type lyrics,
to conscious lyrics, to conscious rap, he calls it, because of his ET experiences. And the reason why I love him so much is that he's classic in the vein of John Mack, where he was a kid. He has the classic Frozen in Your Bedroom, 3 Grays, Hazy Memories, Missing Time, has stories of being taken to like weird government program type stuff as a kid. All this bizarre stuff happened to him. But then over time, and he felt alone, he felt outcasted, he felt negative. It wasn't a good experience until he got older, and it started to change for him in his relationship and remembering different memories about the experiences. And he has classic onboard UFO experiences, interacting with short grays, tall grays, him and his son on a UFO, classic hybridization program stuff where he was handed a baby that he felt like was his. And it was a profound experience for him. This is happening while his son's in front of him on the floor with a group of hybrid aliens, he's claiming, all playing a game where they're floating a feather, like using telekinesis. Now that sounds crazy, but that is something I've heard before in a group setting, kids doing something, floating a ball or something. It's something that comes up. And he held a baby. He had an experience with My Lab also, where like he'll have a UFO experience, and then right after that, it seems like the military comes in and abducts him, and then like kind of like it's not a pleasant experience. He wakes up with foggy memories of pain in his back. He doesn't know what happened. It's that classic My Lab, which is a military abduction for the new folks. He has all the signs of somebody. I mean, he's remembered piloting ships. All of it. And he was just so good on camera because he's a performer and he's really confident. And he was kind of shy, not shy, but he hadn't really like put himself out there too much. And he was studied by MUFON as well, and not Kathleen Martin, another famous person in the space. And the doc was a coming out party for him because he was it's part of his mission, like mine, to like communicate this to the world. So the doc's all about the transformational aspect of contact and how it can take you from a dark place to a light place. And I don't think it's all, there's a term for it where like there's a syndrome where like if something bad happens to you, you eventually turn that trauma into something good. I forget what it's called. There's someone right now listening who's like, I know that name. And I don't think it's that. I think it's deeper than that. I think something's going on. I think people are being triggered, or their subconscious and conscious is being turned in a way. And these people who have this contact also feel like they have a purpose in the world, and they transform radically. And the last thing I'll say is he also had the classic stuff of like, something's going to happen and you have a job to do. That's like a classic experiencer thing they say. Like, I feel like I have a job to do. Something's going to happen, bad or good, and my job is to help people get through it. Now, the lens usually is negative, like a catastrophe, and like he even has a vision of something hitting the earth and then him having to like help people deal with it. I don't know if it's like a literal experience. It might be like a subconscious, metaphorical experience to get people to change, to be a better person, to want to help people. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. That's more like what John Mack kind of hinted at. But for skits, he did. I wouldn't say. I don't know if he would say he's enlightened, but like it put him on a path to enlightenment and put him on a path to be a more conscious person in every aspect of his life, from his career to how he shows up with his friends and family to the way he shows up in the world day to day. Not that it's still a struggle, not that still being human is hard, but it's had an overall positive impact on his life. And I just think that's beautiful because the doc is one part thrilling and scary, but also heartfelt and transformational. And that is like everything I'm about in the UFO world.
Nice. And where can they find it, and what's it called?
It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Calling All Hybrids. That's his hit. That's his hit song, Calling All Hybrids. Yeah, it's about him and his wife. His wife has experiences too. It was a joy to produce.
So, final thing. Looking ahead, I know you said you've got other Cosmic Disclosure episodes to film. You've got some in the can. What else do you see for the rest of the year?
Well, this year I want to see, there's the October surprise. I don't know when this is going to come out, but there's always something that happens politically that can get tied to UFOs. The rest of the year, I'm waiting on the Buga Sphere. I want to know if the isotope testing happens, and that will come from Dr. Greer or scientists working with him. That takes longer and costs like a lot of money. So I'm hoping to get that, because that could be a breakthrough moment. If they come out and they're like, the metal is this, everyone's gonna be like, okay, it's real. Is it non-human or is it from an ancient civilization? That's a big deal in the next couple months. 3i Atlas. Now, as much as as I don't think that is something to worry about, Avi Loeb on News Nation like 2 days ago was just saying it's a nuclear, like he was suggesting it could be a nuclear powered alien technology sent through our solar system to wake us up or to see how we react. And he gives all the reasons why. I'm like, what is that? Is that the false flag that Jeremy Corbell warned about earlier this year? He literally said the same thing before we even knew about 3i Atlas, that people on the inside said they're going to use the threat of an alien mothership coming to Earth to scare everyone, so we spend a crap load of money on weapons in space. So those are kind of like the two big things. Like I want to just tell people, like, I don't really know. I'm just talking to the people who might know. Just be wary of any threat-based UFO narrative. Even Avi Loeb. Dr. Greer called out, I called out strong, I'm being dramatic. He talked about Avi Loeb potentially being associated with this disinformation group of scientists connected to the Legacy program to help with the threat-based narrative. And if you go listen to the interview on News Nation, it ends ominous. He's like, we can't let these things in the front door. We don't know what its intent is. He's saying these things. You're like, aren't you a Harvard scientist? Like, really? Like, it's so wild because NASA's saying it's a comet and he's not. It's just, I don't know. So I would say the two things are be wary of false flags. It's been warned about for a long time by Carol Rosin and Dr. Greer, this whole thing to scare people. And also look out for revelations about the Buga Sphere and just general awareness of UFOs. The drone thing too is happening, which is fascinating all across Europe now, the mystery drones, which is the same exact thing that's happening in Jersey. Weird stuff like an orb turning into a giant plane and being silent and moving really slow, like high strangeness. Dr. Greer thinks that's all the Legacy program testing us and none of it's actually NHI, but that's another thing to look out for. And just general increase in UFO sightings. It seems like the orbs and the spheres are like just showing up in mass now. I don't know if it's just more AI generated videos, but there's so much happening and we're clearly ramping up to something, James. Like I would bet on it. I would bet that, like, you know, in the next 2 years, there'll be a major event, and all the channelers are talking about, not that channeling is something that I 100% put my head behind, but everyone's talking about 2027, some sort of event. You're hearing from the whistleblowers, you're hearing from channelers. Like at some point, like, you know, is it right? Is it wrong or right? I don't know, but stay tuned. You're living in the most exciting time when it comes to ufology and disclosure. For real. I'm happy I'm alive during this time.
Awesome. And what a great way to take us out. Listen, man, I appreciate it. Definitely stay in touch. We'll keep posted on all the hot topics you talked about and all the other topics that I'd love to get a hold of some of the whistleblowers you're getting a hold of, and we're trying. But anybody I come across, we do have a case. Well, spoiler alert, by the time this comes out, we've had an interview with the state director for Florida MUFON. We've got video of inside of a craft from an abductee. So, and again, is it or isn't it? We'll see. We'll see.
Now that's how you end a podcast.
We'll see. But until then, my friend, we'll definitely be in touch. And thanks so much for the time today.
Of course, James. It was a pleasure, buddy. Thank you.